Hello, this session is about how to create an ARToolKit6 project in Android Studio. We're not just going to open the example, but we're going to create a new empty Android project and import ARToolKit6 into this empty project. In order to prepare this, I've downloaded Android Studio for Windows 10, which you can get from developerandroid.com. It's the latest release. And I've also downloaded ARToolKit6 in the current available version, which is 6.02 for Android, which you can get from here, from the official ARToolKit download page, 6.02 Android-SDK. That will download the zip. If you unzip that, you see the ARToolKit6 directory, and important for us when creating a new empty project or when importing ARToolKit6 into an existing project is the SDK directory. So you go to SDK, go into the library, and AR6J is the library we're going to use, which contains an AAR file. Just remember that location, ARToolKit6 SDK lib AR6J. We're going to need that, or going to remember that. Good. We open Android Studio. In that case, I just create a new Android Studio project. Call it ARToolKit6 test. And Android Studio doesn't like it if I start with lowercase, so we start with uppercase. And just next, we have API 15, which is good. If you want to go higher, you can go higher in the API version, but you shouldn't go below 15. So 15 is fine. We just continue from here, and we want to start a project without any activity. And finish. That's creating our project. Gradle's running, building our project, and we already can see here our project layout and our Gradle scripts. Okay, that's a really empty project. There are some things already there which I don't want to have, so we delete that one, and we also delete that one. Yeah, so empty project. And now we are importing the ARToolKit6 library into that. So we need to open module settings and press the plus. And we're adding a new module to that project, which is an AAR package. Next. Now we navigate to the location of that AAR package. ARToolKit6 SDK lib AR6J release AAR. Open that one and we import that. So that starts Gradle running, and actually the module should appear just below or above that one, but it doesn't, so we close the dialog. It's loaded already, but just to make sure, we open the dialog again, open module settings, and now we see AR6J release is there, and we need to add it as a dependency to our application. So we go to the dependencies tab, hit the plus button there, say we want to add a module dependency, and get our module, the AR6J, and add it as a dependency to our project. Gradle runs and updates everything, which is good. And yep, good. So now everything's there. Let's check that. So we have the settings Gradle, which now shows that we're using AR6J, and we have an AR6J build Gradle file, which refers to the AR6J release AAR. all good. So we have a style which is pretty empty. Don't have any layouts. We need to create it later on. Oh, that's alright. Okay, then let's just start with the classes. I'll check the manifest file first. We have the application. Okay, yep, all good. We need all that later. So now we're going to create our class to start the Android application. We call that AR tracking example application, and we subclass it from application, from Android application. We want to have the overrides dialog because we are overwriting the onCreate function. What we do in the onCreate function is we load the ARToolKit asset helper and use that asset helper to load the trackables, which in that case will be JPEG files, and to load the camera calibration. So to give you an idea what that is, we switch to the project setting, open that one here, that's the wrong one, open the app, and that's our sources, the libraries and everything. And now we copy over, just to keep things simple, from the example source, tracking example, Android tracking, that's tracking example, source, main, assets. So that's the assets we need, and we need to place them at the same location as they are in here, which is source main. So we have source main, and we just take the assets from here. Oh, I'll show you the assets later on. We just take the assets from here and copy them into a location here. So that's the assets. The naming is important because we're referring to assets, and Android Studio internally knows what assets are if they are in the assets directory. And now you can see we have our trackables, which is the Altera trackables.1 example, and we have a camera calibration file with the default camera calibration. Yeah, I can't open that in here. So let's close that. And now what you want to do is we want to use the asset helper from the ARToolKit6 base, which is part of the AR6J. When we use that, we create a new asset helper, and get assets, and that get assets function will give us the location to the assets directory. Then the asset helper needs to be loaded. Just getting my notes on the other side. So you want to cache assets folder. Hello. Cache assets folder. Give it the application context and the data. And that's pretty much it. That gives us the route to the data directory here. And because of that, we then have access to the JPEG files and to the camera calibration file. Okay, so far so good. And create it will just load our application and do that. To make that work, we have to tell the Android manifest, which is our entry point, so which is the application class we just created. We do that by using the name for the application, Android, was not it, Android name, and then we use the tracking application, the tracking example application, to kick off that app. Okay, next is we need to create an activity. So we need a new class, switch back to the Android view, which makes that easier. New Java class in here, and that's going to be our new Java class. It's going to be our AR tracking activity, and we subclass that from AR activity. Okay, forgot to override, but that's fine, we can quickly do that here. We need to supply a renderer, and we need to supply the frame layout. Okay, the renderer we will do later, because we have to create the renderer class first, but we start with the frame layout from here. So what we want to do is we want to return a frame layout. We need to find this by id, id.main frame layout, and we need to create that layout first. So we're going to create a layout in the resources, and we want to have a new folder that's called layout. Just looking if that gives us a quick layout XML file. Layout file name, we call it just main. We don't want to have a linear, we want to have a frame layout, and that's that. Go to text view, makes things easier for now. Hide the preview, don't want to have that. So it creates a layout and a main XML in there that we use as our main layout at the beginning. You need to set a few things here. Match parent, that is the starting point. I go to fill parent to fill up the whole screen that's available. Then you can set the Android orientation. Orientation as vertical. We can set the Android baseline align to false. I'm not sure if that's really important. What is important is we need to set the ID, because that's how we look that layout up, and we set that as add plus ID slash, and we call it main layout. So that's our layout ID. I think that's the basic settings. I have something more that is layout gravity, to have gravity center, and Android layout weight as 1, just to have it in front of everything. But yeah, that's just details. What is important is the ID and ID main layout. Okay, so now we have the layout. The next step then is sorry, to provide a renderer. And what we're going to do before that is we override the onCreate, override on, and override public void on create, saved instance state, because in the onCreate, because yeah, we'll do this super on create save instance state, so then that's dealt with. And then we need to set the domain layout to our content view, so that's what we do now. Set content view and r.layout.main. That refers to the name of the XML file, so that's our layout main. And it will load this layout here, which then will provide the frame layout for the view, and then we have everything in place except our AR renderer. So here we will return a new class called AR tracking renderer. So okay, so we need to create that new class, same package and everything, and that extends AR renderer, which is good. And we need to implement the configure AR scene. Actually, we need to implement a few more things. So what we need to have is something called AR trackable, which refers to our JPEG files which we use for tracking. I've prepared that and I just copied it over. So create a class called trackable, which has a name and a height, and we create 4 of those trackables according to the assets we're using. 1, 2, 3, 4 with the JPEGs. And yeah, we load that just at the beginning as a static class, and yeah, and create all our trackables here. Then we need to have an array which holds the UIDs for our trackables. So that's an array for trackables length. And then we start to configure the AR scene. That I copied it over and showed it to you line by line. So imports. Okay. So what we're doing here, we go through all the trackables that we created here, and for each trackable we call the add marker function, which will tell ARToolKit that that is a new marker with that trackable name and that trackable height, and create an instance internally for that marker, and we save that instance in our trackable UIDs array. not the instance exactly, but just the UID to that instance, because that function returns the ID. You show that? No. Not really. Yeah, that's just a decompiler. Okay, no, I don't want to have that. So that one just returns the ID. So we want to hold that ID. And that one is just a basic instance that we wanna have a track. Wanna do tracking of 2D trackables, and we wanna simultaneously track a maximum amount of 4 trackables, which is our array length. So that's that. And we have configured the ARC. We need to override another method, which is called onSurfaceCreated. I'll copy it over as well. And take care of the imports. Come on. Here's the ARToolKit internal shader program for that example. And we want to render a simple cube. In order for that to work, we have to private cube. Create instance of the cube, and then that's all good. So what that does is onSurfaceCreated, which will be called once our ARToolKit is up and running and creates the OpenGL context for us to render something into. So that automatically calls the onSurfaceCreated method. When that's done, we create a shader program, which will consist of a simple vertex shader and a simple fragment shader, pixel shader and the vertices. And we also already create our cube, which will be drawn in the AR scene, and say that that cube uses this shader program. And we go on and call the super of surface created just to pass the GL context on. Okay, and the next one is the important one. We'll do that line by line, which is also an override of the public void of the draw function. Which eventually will draw our cube on a trackable. So we need to call the super draw in that draw function in that case to initialize all the draw things inside ARToolKit. And once that comes back, we have to set some OpenGL stuff, which is always the same. So I'll just copy that one over. Cool face, dev test, and we draw the vertices counterclockwise. And that's the ARToolKit stuff, as we have a for each. I have a for each of our int trackable UID for all our trackable UIDs. So we go over all our trackable UIDs, and if we find this trackable in a video frame, ARToolKit get instance very marker visible. So if that marker is visible to ARToolKit at the moment, this marker with that ID, we do something. So what we want to do is we want to get the projection matrix, which we store in a float array. projection matrix. We get it from ARToolKit, ARToolKit, get instance, get projection matrix. And we also want to have the model view matrix, which we also store in a float array. The model view matrix. ARToolKit dot get instance get query mark. That's not get. That's query marker transformation, because we want to have the marker orientation, or in that case transformation, for that specific ID. And that's pretty much it. Now we want to have the cube to draw on that projection matrix and that model view matrix. So that will draw the cube in the OpenGL context and giving it the projection matrix and the model view matrix, so that we know exactly where to draw that cube to. And that's pretty much it. We still have a compilation error here. No, we don't. It's just not updated. So it should all be good. Let's just try and rebuild that. And there's one other tiny thing we need to do. Small typo. Okay, and the last thing we need to do is we need to tell the Android manifest regarding this error here. It looks a bit like we're using an outdated Java development kit version. Looks like we would use version 7 and not version 8 to use the @override annotations. But what's actually happening, and what's pretty misleading error here, is we're missing just the brackets up here. And now we are all good to go. So if you just rebuild the project now, we should have everything in, which brings us back to the last missing thing, which is the manifest file. And in the Android manifest, we have to tell Android which activity we want to use. So we have an activity, which is our tracking activity. We can configure that a bit, like Android config changes, for example. We can say you want the keyword hidden, and we want to have orientation and screen size. And we also can set a label. Android label, tracking activity. That's that for our activity. And then we set the action. Oh, hang on, no, we need to have an intent filter for that. So intent filter, and inside the intent filter, inside the intent filter we set the action Android name, which would be the main action. And you want to have a category, Android name launcher. We have the intent filter closed, we have the activity closed, we have the application closed. Okay, so that's our final Android manifest. And that's pretty much all we need to get a simple Android Studio project up and running with ARToolKit 6. Thanks for following, and please give me feedback if you find some error or have some additional things you would like to ask me, or just any feedback that comes to mind. Thank you very much. Bye.